afternoon. Thank you all for coming. My name is Cinergy. I'm with the Cinergy project, and on behalf of the Cinergy project and FAMUFest, I would like to welcome you here. I would like to also ask to our partners and supporters. For this case, it's mainly Czech Cinematographical Fund, Czech TV, and Czech Audiovisual Producers Association. As you all know, we are going to discuss the ways and possibilities of co-production now, and therefore I'm really grateful that we have two interesting and successful producers from Europe here with us who kindly accepted our invitation. So I'm happy to welcome Klaudia Smieja-Rostworowska. Hello, Klaudia.
Hello, everyone.
Klaudia is from Poland and she's co-founder of the company Medant. And Dyveke Bjorkly Graver from Norway. Hello. And Dyveke represents the company Oslo Pictures from Norway. And last but not least, this is Karla Stojáková, producer from Czech Republic, FAMU Production, and also head of the Department of Production at FAMU. So thank you girls for being with us. Just last information, if you don't have to, please don't leave immediately after the show or after the event. We would like to invite you for a glass of wine together with the Czech Audiovisual Producers Association. So, thank you. Thank you.
Hello, we will talk only in English, and I would like to encourage everyone to ask a lot of questions, because I have lots of questions myself. I think we would be here for the next 2 days to answer them all. But I think that I will interrupt our interview, and you can ask right away, so don't wait to the last moment. Please ask the ladies in between as well. Since we are all here at FAMUFest, and most of you are students, I would like to ask a first question, which is, where did you study? Because I think this is important for us to know if the film producers only come from film schools, or if there's maybe some other way how to become a film producer.
I can start. Well, I started out studying at the Business Academy in Oslo, studying marketing and economics, and not sure at all what I was doing or what I should become. And I was then thinking about how can I match my interests, which was organizing, marketing, film, stuff like that. And I heard about the film school at Lillehammer, and I applied, and I didn't come in. It's a tough competition. So I started film theory at Lillehammer, just wanting to be close to the school, starting to work at all the productions that they did there, and continuing on with cultural project management at Lillehammer. And I was there for almost 3 years, working on every project I could get my hands on from the film school there. And I applied again, and I was refused again. So I was like a runner-up on a wait list in case someone said no. Of course they didn't. So then I went back to Oslo and started working as assistant in a company, and I moved to another company and basically did my film school through production companies. What about you?
Well, we never talked about this, even though we know each other, but I think I have very similar background. Means I never wanted to study economical studies, but it happened that very close to my village, they just opened a high school which was dedicated to banking management, high banking management. And I met like a deal with one of my friends in my primary school, which was really like a small village. And like actually he provoked me to make this deal with him. and like no matter what was like, you know, the price, but I made it. So I passed exams to this banking school, and I was selected to like very specified like a banking class, and it was high school, so I was 15, I didn't know what I'm doing. It was just a deal with him. And when my parents heard that I'm there, and it was like a kind of prestigious school at the time, so, and it was private, it was set by ING Bank Śląski, so kind of the biggest private bank in Poland. There were no such schools in Poland at all, so for my parents, who were like the teachers, it was like, oh my god, I mean, that's the door to your international career. I didn't want to be a banking person at all. But because I did that, I was selected to this banking class, which was a class only of 20 students. Then my grandparents said that they will pay for this together with my parents, and I have to do this because probably I will never get such an opportunity in my life. So no matter what I decide later, I need to stay in this school and I have to finish this school. So I finished this school. It was a very painful process for me, I have to say. We didn't have like history at school. We didn't have biology, geography, like you know, those good subjects that you can be a little bored with, or you can just, you know, sleep sometimes, and you can exchange with your friends when you go for a beer. Like a regular friend that you had, not from financing or from banking school, but we had like, on our first year, we had like 6 hours of like banking law, or 6 hours of something else, like, it was very painful school. So just to resist, of course, like the first year I stayed at school, second year was much more difficult, I just decided to go for those classes that I want to go for, otherwise there were 2 cinemas on the corner. So I was spending my time there, literally. And during the day, when they were not offering like blockbusters, so during the day they were offering like art house cinema. So in a way, I became educated on cinema just because I hated my school. So when I passed the final exams and I was finally graduated from this nightmare, and it was really amazing because I was pretty good. So I finished the school with good remarks. It was only based on math and logistics, so if you don't really have to put a lot of your attention just to have good remarks. Then it was a problem at home, and my parents said like, yeah, but you have only like 5 remarks everywhere, so you should continue. I didn't want to continue. And during that school, we were offered by the bank to spend some time there, at least 2 months, during our education. So I spent those 2 months at this bank. And again, I was pretty lucky because the lady whom I was supposed to work with, she had to go for pregnancy rest. So they offered me a job immediately. So I even had a job after high school. But I didn't want to stay in the bank, and it was kind of boring. At the same time, I was really fascinated how people can talk about cinema. They watch the movie and they can talk forever. Like they're standing in the cinema and they talk and talk and talk. And it was kind of opening my mind too, that maybe I know something about this, but I was not sure. Anyway, after this school, my parents said, you have to continue. I said, no way, I'm not going to continue. So they said, okay, so go wherever you want, but we are not going to pay for your education. Well, fair enough. So I went to Jagiellonian University, and I wanted to study history of the cinema, and I didn't pass the exams. I was not selected. So I decided to stay there for cultural studies, and then second year I did my exams well, so then but I decided also to keep my cultural studies, and I had to also earn money to stay in Krakow, so I started working in a bar, and I met there a guy who came to this bar, and he said that, he's looking for people who will help him for free to make his students' movies. So I'm quite busy with those 2 studies and with this bar job, but in a way I'm curious, so I will come. And I stayed there. So I did with him 1 movie, then another and another, and he kind of like offered also his friends from film school that there is a girl in Krakow and she's helping for free. Because for free. So so I was just receiving more and more offers for free. And on one of those projects, I had a kind of a disagreement with one of the professors from Silesia University, where it's one of those like production film schools in Poland. And I made another deal. He said that, well, actually those students' movies should be run by students from production studies, from those film schools. And because I was not a student, I said, hey, but what's the problem? I can just pass those exams very soon and I will be a student of the school, and I did that. So then I was studying free, so cultural studies, film history, and film production. So I can call myself that I have this very, very proper education. And you probably noticed already that being a producer is kind of a mixture. So having economical studies somewhere in your hands, so you know actually how to make a business from this, or at least use this language, and having like at the same time cultural education, it's really very, very, or if not the best match.
So,
Now I'm not doing this for free any longer, that often.
so that's really step by step, and I want to ask you both for a moment in your life when you already had some production work behind you, because at one day you became a producer of a feature film. When did that happen? What was the film that you first produced? And was it a big film, small film? Did you think big? This is something I think important. It could be already in the school already, or maybe after. With you, Dyveke, that was a different story. So when was the first moment when you decided, okay, I'm a producer, I'm ready to do it, and this is the first film I will produce?
Well, for me it was, I think, a bit different, because I was employed by this company where I was for 8 years. I started out as a coordinator for some features. I did like 1, 2, 3 films, and then I was hired to continue on as a producer's assistant, and my goal all the time was to end up as a producer. And I knew that I didn't want to stay in the company forever, because they produce films that is not the type of films that I want to spend my life doing. But I knew that I had a chance to get my experience there, that they opened up in some kind of way. It's a female-run company, and I noticed after being at different companies that they kind of opened the door for someone who wanted to grow their career within the company. So I didn't decide on the project myself. It was kind of something that happened gradually. I was working my way up, and all of a sudden it was like, yes, now you're ready for this responsibility in a way. So that was the one side, and the other side was at the same time I did the Java workshop, and I think that was when I kind of grew into myself as a producer and kind of understood how I wanted to work. I learned so much about how others were doing and just sharing those experiences with someone. And I think it was kind of a, I don't know, it's very kind of cliche to call it a life-changing experience, but in many ways it was, because it was what kind of taught me how to proceed and how to kind of make a strategy to figure out how I would move forward with my career.
How was it with you? What was the first thing? I'm producing, I'm ready to go.
Well, I'm not sure if I made this decision by myself. Those were others that were around me, and this might happen in your life, and I think that it's very common in our business that people grow up together. And I also had friends And those friends were the time when I was working. I finally moved to Warsaw. Obviously, the whole business is in Warsaw, so if you want to work in the film industry, that's the best address in Poland. So I moved there, but I had only my car and one suitcase, and I had to look for a job. And obviously, I mean, you cannot be the producer when you only have like a car and one suitcase and you don't have friends and connections. So I didn't have this all, and I had to pay for apartments. So I started working as a location scout and location manager. Some people were saying that I was even good at it. Then someone offered me like production coordinating. I didn't like it at all. And then I was asked to be a production manager. Again, too many contracts to be signed. But yeah, anyway, you need to pay for your rent. So I mean, I was not really thinking those times. So it was like people were offering me job one after another. So I was accepting. Luckily for me, I never had the moment when I didn't have job. So I felt myself really lucky that this market accepted me in a way. I know that people are sometimes starving, that you know you need to experiment with yourself or you need to look for something else. But like I didn't have those thoughts just because I was doing really movies like one after another. And very quickly I decided to leave commercial market because like the best money I was earning was from making commercials. But it was too much blaming, too much pressure, too much of everything, even though the money were really good. I couldn't stand on this, so I just decided to stay with fiction projects, but again, in those times I was not really thinking about developing my career. That didn't exist. I didn't have this kind of ego that I really wanted to become a producer. And even though like there were like people around me that were thinking, they were setting up their companies, I didn't feel myself like not even ready for that. I didn't feel that I might even have skills for this. And you know, all of us, how difficult it is to produce the movie. If you are like supporting physical production departments, it's such a high dynamic that you don't really have time to sometimes read a book or an article in newspaper. You just want to survive this production until the end. And that was my experience, that I was really doing one movie after another and I was not thinking. But then suddenly I have my only friends in Warsaw were from this film industry and they were growing up. So like myself, from being location scout to being like production manager, but they've been doing other things. So one of my friends one day came to me, he's now like a good sales agent, the one that I work with, and he said like, oh, maybe it's a moment you should go for creative producers workshop. I said, no way, I mean, it's not for me. Like, I'm not creative producer, I won't be creative producer, I'm fine where I am. I said, I'll try. And he was really pushing those buttons. He even made one submission for me for one workshop at New Horizons Film Festival. So I had to go just because I was listed. But it was not really in my head that I might be the producer. It was like kind of responsibility, and also like in Poland, like still I was living with that pictures that those are people that are 50 something, they need to have money to run this business, it's like a totally huge responsibility. I think not ready for this. And then I met, again accidentally, the person who came to me saying that he acquired rights for a very famous Polish book which was called The Mighty Angel. And he had the dream also for the director to be Wojtek Smarzowski, who was also kind of famous Polish director. And my job that I was offered with was just to make applications to Polish Film Institute somewhere else. And I realized very quickly that this man, who became my friend, that he's from a music business, which is not even close to film business, that he had some experience with theater, but again, nothing really connected to film production, which we all know is completely different. So actually I was doing this movie with him step by step. We were both like newborns, but we did it. And the movie was successful, I think on both ways. Like creatively, I still like this movie, even though it's a very heavy movie. And commercially, we went also well in cinemas. So And for me, it was really like very, very first movie, quite big one, as for newcomer, with a person who didn't have this experience as well. The budget was not zero this time. We had like a real budget, and we really made it. The movie was also super complicated, divided into 3 seasons, like a huge crew. So I didn't start from like a little one, but from a kind of a big one. But this experience showed me in a way that I might have something, or I might have this skill to over-control the process in a way. Because it was not so much different from my previous jobs. I was like very often over-responsible. Sometimes I was deciding on myself what's happening in the production, when producers were disappearing because they were like producing 7 movies at the same time. So then they were leaving me with this project alone. And I realized that actually the job that I was doing previously was very similar to producing, and I stayed.
And that was before you created your own production company, correct? Because Matt and...
A long time before.
Yes. So still you didn't want to establish your own production company. That was established years after, 2015. You co-founded, the 2 ladies, right? You co-founded it with, I have to look, Beata, right?
Yeah, with Beata and Bogna. Yeah, I mean...
And why did it happen afterwards? Because it is happening often that with the first film, the producer decides to create his or her own production company. And I want to as well ask about the name, because Mad Ends and Madness Distribution, the 2 companies that you have, I want to ask about the madness in it.
Well, yeah, as you see, I mean, I don't make really plans. Sometimes I'm asked for making business plans. This I can do, but I'm not planning myself that much, and I'm rather slow with like getting there to those points that are later like main points in my life. And yeah, so after this movie, after The Mighty Angel, then I think accidentally I was offered to freelance as a producer for other companies, and those projects were really pretty cool. So, and those producers were really like good people. So again, I stayed, I was sharing my time between 2 and later 3 companies, and I was producing for them mainly. And then I met Beata. So she came to one of those projects saying that she desperately wants to make this project. She was studying in the same university that I graduated from. And in a way, she was not giving up. So she was accepted to this project. And we wrapped this project, and I had nothing in my plate. And she said like, oh, but I will stay at the office. And we will see, I mean, I have nothing else to do, so I will stay with you, and once there is like a new project, then maybe we will do it together. And we started working together, so we've been both freelancing as a team. But then we were also, at the same time, we've been reading a lot. Also scripts that were not being accepted by Polish producers to produce. Either they were too risky, or they didn't like it. Our problem is that we like them more than those that were accepted. So this idea of set our own company came from there, that we've been reading things that we thought are better than those that we are producing sometimes. And there is never a good moment, probably, for this kind of risk or this decision. And for us, we've been talking about this, like I think a year or more, and finally we said like, let's do it. She's younger than me, much younger than me, so for her it was like a super good moment. I was already in this place in my life where I started thinking that maybe it's good to have a place to live, and kind of a stable payments, and maybe like a better car, because the one that had already 20 years was really like in a bad stage. But yeah, I mean, then we went to the cinema, we've been watching Mad Max, and we didn't have an idea how to call our company. And because people were saying that we are doing so many movies that we work like a nuns, sometimes like a dogs, but Mad Dogs was really not fitting us, so we said, okay, Mad Dogs is fine. And madness, it was like real craziness, because after we started producing our own titles, those are super tiny movies that no one wanted to watch on the Polish market. So, and you know that if you apply to your funds, you need to distribute the movie, at least theatrically. Polish guidelines said that it needs to be at least 25 screens. No one wanted to accept our movies. So we've been just knocking distributors' doors, and they were saying, oh, it's not for us, not for us. Yeah, but we need to feel obligations against Polish Film Institute. It's not for us. So we had to set up distribution outfit, and that's madness. We didn't want to have it. We had to distribute our own movies, so now we have madness and madness.
And there's 3 of you in the company.
Yes. And actually we are 5. So it's Beata, who joined me a long time ago, and then there was like a new star on the market, like the girl that everyone was talking about, and she was called to be like the production, no, it was like a better word, but I don't remember the English exchange now. Anyway, we've been thinking that we really need someone who's like good with physical production, and because the whole market was talking only about her, we made like an interview with her. She was not really interested about making art house cinema. But then I started producing Citizen Jones, which was quite a big project. Big enough for her. Yes, by Agnieszka Holland. She accepted the work as a line producer, and during that we liked each other so much again that she said that she will stay with us. And like for us, it was not that we want to hire a person. We are working rather as a team, and I think that right now we are kind of a family even. So we offered Bogna to join the company as a shareholder, not just only as a person who will be working for us or with us. So yeah, and there are also 2 more girls, Gabi and Kinga, who are with us and who are part of the family, and they are not joining us for projects only, but they are staying with us at the office. And I have to say that we are actually sharing everything. We are kind of democratic company. So even though we have like different skills and different tastes, sometimes we made a lot of disagreements about scripts we are reading. It's a kind of always democratic choice. 5 women, and it works really well.
With you, Dyveke, it's a bit different. You are a CEO of a well-established production company, Oslo Pictures. How do you decide about the projects in your company?
Well, when we started, we kind of restarted the company in 2018. I joined in 2017, but after that at first we had a very kind of anarchistic attitude to the whole thing. It was basically, if someone wants to do something, just do it, and if you manage to finance it, it will be fine. And it was kind of a utopia idea of how to run a production company. We didn't really set a strategy, or we were just kind of relying on each other's taste and work abilities. And in many ways it worked, but still I think it was difficult for us, the producers, but also our employees, to kind of understand why we were doing things and how and when. And so we started to have this kind of project meetings where all the producers and also Eskil Vogt, the scriptwriter, started to read all scripts coming in, and then we had meetings discussing each project. And I think it made us do better decisions, but we had very different thoughts on that process as well. But we are carrying on with this kind of way to choose the projects coming in, and then we do another meeting when we're going into development and have kind of established some financing in the project and decide if we want to move forward. So yeah.
Okay. Before we move on to the wonderful projects that both ladies produced or co-produced, maybe since we covered how it all started and if you needed film schools, do you have any questions towards that from the audience? No, not really. Okay. Well, I would like to go, because you both are involved in wonderful projects, and maybe I would like to ask you, Klaudia, first, because you produced and then co-produced with Agnieszka Holland, and we consider Agnieszka Holland a Czech filmmaker. She studied at FAMU, she speaks Czech, and I think that she is considered one of us. And you co-produced Charlatan, the movie that she made last year, and that was very big. How is it to co-produce with Czech Republic for you? And was the reason to co-produce Agnieszka's last film, Charlatan, because you worked with her before, or was there another reason why you stepped into this co-production?
Well, I don't know producer in Poland who'd refuse to work with Agnieszka, because it's Agnieszka. And it's Agnieszka Holland. You consider Agnieszka as a Czech filmmaker, we consider her as a Polish filmmaker. Probably if you would ask French, they would tell you that she's definitely French filmmaker. And I'm not sure about Americans, but she does hold a lot of passports, and she's an amazing person, and she does work on everything, so it's really good to qualify her on your side, yes, definitely. But yeah, Agnieszka is one of those talents that she knows why she's doing her movies, definitely. She's not choosing because she wants to, I don't know, pay her bills, or she wants to just do another job. She's doing those movies per purpose, and each movie is differently important. And if you know her movies, and probably you do, you know that each is really valuable for different reasons, and she's really making history of the cinema. And she's also an amazing person to work with. And that was after making with her Citizen Jones, producing Citizen Jones, which was a very difficult project. And difficult for a few reasons. It was not obvious financing, and we've been packaging this project for 3 or 4 years, which is not that long for this scale of project, but anyway, for me it was like kind of long process, because I was doing also my first steps as an individual producer with this kind of big co-production. Producer that is responsible for the process, producer that needs to find sales agents, who's producing not Polish project dedicated to Polish cinema, or who is not acting as minority partner, so responsibility is somewhere else. And we've been also shooting this movie in 3 countries. Poland was the easiest, of course, then it was Ukraine, not easy, and Scotland, which was also not easy. And those are 3 systems, 3 financial and legal systems that are very heavy to put together on. So from co-production point of view, I spent with Agnieszka those 3 years. She was constantly saying, we won't make it. I said, no, don't bring another previous TV series, because there will be a day when we will greenlight this project. She was always saying, no. And that really happened, that one day I came to her saying, like, together with Staszek, with another producer, I said, like, we have money for this. We are greenlighting this project. I said, impossible, I already accepted the TV series for Netflix. I said, but at the same time, we couldn't postpone the project, because the financing was really like kind of time limited. We couldn't renew the grant from Polish Film Institute, and our cast was available in this precise window. So we had to just kind of, again, match 2 productions in one. Agnieszka was doing this TV series, meantime prepping the movie with us in 3 countries. How to manage those, I hardly remember how we managed this process. with this woman who's really like, she's the hardest working person worldwide I know. She's not giving up on any single second. And really to follow her, being my age, even Beata's age, was not easy. Anyway, we did this one. And then when we've been in post-production, I think, Agnieszka sent us Charlatan, which again, you don't say no to Agnieszka. The script was super well written. There were already Czech producers and Slovak co-producers attached to this, and Mike and Sam from Ireland, so the package was looking amazing. And Agnieszka is Agnieszka, she does have a Polish passport, so I know to apply to Polish Film Institute, of course. And then we met a problem that because she was Polish, we've been qualified to majority Polish competition at the Polish Film Institute, which is worse than when you are in minority, because it would be super strong project for minority poor. Then you have to compete with Czech project in Czech language about Czech character that no one knows in Poland against Polish projects. But again, we were successful because Agnieszka is Agnieszka, and we got the money, and we didn't have that many elements that were Polish. We had the director who was Polish. But the whole movie, as you know, was shot here in Czech Republic. It's in Czech language with Czech cast, so Polish elements were Agnieszka, Antoni, who's composing the music together with Mary. They composed both, and Kasia was coming here for second unit. So for me to hold this production was really not difficult. Not many contracts this time, because the list of people that were attached to this project was really short. But again, a great adventure, and honestly it was my last time in Prague that I came here for shooting, and we spent really such a nice time because it was like a sunny, nice weather, and those times the shoot was happening outside Prague in the countryside. Very nice place, super beautiful place. So for me it was always also like a kind of 3 days of holidays, because it's completely different when you come as a co-producer to the set. You know nothing about problems, like real problems. You are just this nice person that everyone offers a coffee. So I was really lucky one. It was amazing adventure. And you know the whole story, I mean how it happened later. So the movie was accepted to many festivals, and it was also theatrically successful. So
was it successful in Poland, theatrically as well? Even though the story was unknown, but it was Agnieszka?
Not that much as her previous project. Yes, because it's Czech language, and I think that's kind of a factor that might influence theatrical distribution, but it didn't want really bad. I mean, still, the result was pretty fine for us.
I want to talk about another co-production that actually you, both of your companies were involved, and it has a Czech connection because the director is Grimur Hakonarson, Icelandic guy who studied at FAMU International. When I was still a student, we made a short film together, and then Grimur was really, or is one of the top Icelandic directors at the moment. And that was his first feature, Rams, that went all the way to Cannes, certain regard, and won it. And tell us about how you were involved, because of course for you were directly involved. For Dyveke it was at the time when she joined the company, but it would be very interesting to hear how is the co-productions happening. It's very natural, as we know, that the Scandinavian countries co-produce together, but how does it happen that there's a Polish co-producer involved, and how did you come to the project, and what did it mean for you?
Yeah, I can start. Well, it's very normal for the Nordic countries to co-produce with each other, but it's really not that often that Norway and Iceland collaborate. Iceland usually go to Denmark for minority, and I always try to lure the Icelandic producers to come to Norway, but it hasn't been that easy because they're so connected to Denmark. But with this project, it was Grimur and Grimar who met the owner of our company, Oslo Pictures, and another producer who worked at the company at the time in Gothenburg at the work in progress. And they needed money for post-production and to finish the film. And they showed some clips to them, and I think they were very intrigued, of course, by the film. And our owner is an investor who really didn't work in film, but he wanted to spend his money on things that he thought mattered. So he decided to invest in the company and also invest in certain titles. So Rams was one of the first films that he invested in. And I think for the company, it was not an official co-production. They were credited as executive producers, and the Norwegian Film Institute, I think, although they wanted to take credit for it when it was accepted in Cannes, they couldn't in a way. But for the company, it was very important, I think, because this was before we did our first Norwegian feature, Valley of Shadows, who was the first feature of the company in 2017. And it kind of put the company on the map for co-productions and made it kind of a company that people were approaching when we went to festivals. So it was, I think, a breakthrough for the company, and also a reason for me to come, because they had some titles that I thought would be good to be associated with, kind of starting out with a new slate.
Yeah, we also joined very late. I didn't have Madens at that time. And it's the same story with friends that I told you already about. Actually, it was not only me who was involved on Polish side, but it was also New York Film Sales. So the same guy who started putting me on a map of those creative producers, he called me once saying that maybe there is like some material, some experts that we received from Iceland. Looks really nice. Maybe you have some time in the evening to watch it. I was working really like a dog then, and I did like a kind of big service for American studio, and then I was doing like the same time the French co-production, and I really didn't have time. So I said, yeah, maybe one day. But actually I started watching those links that he sent me, and in a way I couldn't stop, because it was kind of a sleepy mood. It was not edited movie, but it was really so nice to just switch my brain for a second to some nice landscapes, and I really did like the history that it was like kind of providing. So if I remember well, I just sent an email saying that I really liked it, even though I didn't manage to just watch the whole experts that they sent us. And then we set a call with Grimar, and in that call he started actually this call saying like, we have already financing for this post-production. So that's pity, because I really like it. And we started talking, and after an hour I said, you convinced me, so let's do it with Poland. I said, that's good, because I need to go back to the set. And that's how we started. So it was kind of the same setup. So we didn't make it as an official co-pro. There was no space for this, simply. So the movie was really pretty advanced, and they knew what they want to do. They had all the crew for post-production. They were just only lacking money. So I didn't have the boss with me who really was like investing into projects. But I had a friend who also watched those experts, and she said that actually she's very interested to put the money on it. And that was probably one of the best investments in her life. Because, as you know, the movie was really successful, recouped all revenues very quickly. And it's kind of the same story, that it really like placed us somewhere in the map. That was really amazing success worldwide. People still like remember this title, and for me it was also the beginning of Icelandic journey. Like until now I co-produced already 5 projects with Iceland. That was the first one. The follow-up after that on our call with Grimar was an offer that came from Iceland to be a minority partner to Under the Tree, which was another project that Grimar was producing. We made it as an official co-production. And then this story really continued. So I know Iceland by heart at the moment. It's a very small community, and it's really like a great pleasure to work with those people. But yeah, I mean, this movie was kind of exception. It was, I think, the only one that we did in that model of just only investing on this very, very last stage.
So Iceland is the country that you most co-produce with, or that you become a minority co-producer for, because 5 projects, that's a lot with such a small country. And can you say that it's
by heart and by time? Probably yes. By statistics, yes. We did like 5 so far, but with RAMS, if I can include RAMS to this, those are 5 projects. I wouldn't say that we are thinking it's not like a kind of intuitive thinking to co-produce with Iceland. And it even became problematic at the moment because for Polish Film Institute they committed already to few Icelandic projects. There was never commitment happening from Icelandic Film Center to Polish projects. So we need to also think about this balance. So it's not really good to have a one partner in one country when you stand on your public funds. They really want to see these counter offers coming to Poland as well. So I would not say that Iceland is our major country. We are not focusing on one country. I love it by heart, and I think that it's really nice community of filmmakers. Those people, they know each other, they are helping each other, they are kind of open-minded. And what's really nice also about Iceland, those are super small groups. It's not like 300 Americans that are on set, that you hardly know at the end of this production names on all those people that were around you. Those are super small groups of sometimes 25 people, sometimes 40. They all do everything. It's much sometimes easier to develop intimate movie when you have those super small groups and everyone is helping each other. I think that it's coming by nature in a way that they rise in this natural environment when they stand on themselves, and it's really different to do movies there than in other European countries, at least for me.
Maybe we can take another Icelandic co-production of yours, Land, by Valdimar Johansson, which is a film that I'm completely amazed by, and it went all the way to Cannes as well, in certain regard again, right? Can you tell us maybe with this film what you, when you decide to be minority co-producer, how can you help from the Polish side? How can you be involved? What do you bring on the financial side, but creative side as well? Can you, because this is maybe interesting for us to hear, what is your role as a minority co-producer?
On personal level, each production is different. So there are producers that really want to have other co-producers as real partners. There are also productions that are happening and you only provide financing. This production was somewhere in the middle for me, because again, it's originally Icelandic. It was happening in one valley, in one farm. It was a very small and intimate movie. So there are movies that really require a big group of producers to support each other. This movie was needed really only one person or two. And it was not really easy co-production for us, I have to say. We've been rejected twice from a Polish Film Institute. And we have only 2 shots in Poland, so if you are rejected twice, then there is no third chance. But I couldn't give up in a way on this, so I was really knocking and I was sending letters to this institute, kind of blaming them that I need to get the money for this. And it was really a huge problem, I think a cultural problem of understanding this script. People were really searching there for kind of religion context, which are not. I mean, maybe if you take this Christmas Eve as a kind of religious point, then maybe yes. But yeah, I mean, it was like a confusion, like how are you going to portray this family? Maybe we are too conservative as Poles, I don't know. I mean, but all those notes I was receiving were really bad. So I really pushed hardly, I think that it was really based on our track that we've been already as a company successful in a way. So we had, and we still have, I hope, kind of a common trust that those projects that we are doing might not be big commercially, but at least they will travel worldwide on festivals. So we will do a good job for Polish Film Institute. We will be visible. So, and I think that based on this trust, after they received so many letters from us, they said yes. But it was not really obvious project. And it's not only institute, as you know, that decides, those are also experts. So we couldn't actually convince the committees during 2 sessions. So it was...
broke the rule. So you were the first project accepted even after 2 rejections. Yes.
Yes. And we sent the crew, technical crew to Iceland. The movie was edited in Poland. Again, like little pieces that we are just putting into those productions. It was not only Iceland and Poland, there was also another partner and another country. And sometimes it's really difficult to have like a bigger involvement if the movie is really small, and like it was kind of, I could say, family movie. So yeah, I mean, we could only take editing to Poland, but I'm really proud that Aga was really part of this. I think that it was also very good collaboration between Waldemar and Agnieszka.
It's a debut film. It's the first film by the director.
Oh,
Again,
it
was two, yes. So you have very good eye for the first comers, newcomers.
Well, I need to say that there are always more than twice. That was another corporate that we did with New Europe Film Stage. So I think that like each time when we are collaborating, there's something really happening good out of those projects that we are bringing on early development.
Questions? Questions from the public?
Can I Hi. Dyveke, can I just jump back to back in your career, because you mentioned that you went to EAVE. I'm also at EAVE now, and I also am in a company for 10 years already, so I know where you were at that point. But I was wondering, after you finished EAVE, what was the next step? Like, did you select Oslo Pictures as the company you want to work for? Or did you, like, how did it happen?
Well, first I was, I was super scared to kind of leave, I must say, because I was there for 8 years. It becomes a family. You spend so much time on your job that it's really a breakup, a bit different, I think, than other jobs. So I was kind of trying to put that off in a way, and at the same time I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted. Looking at the companies that was already established in Norway, I wasn't sure that any of them was really a good fit, so I was also wondering where can I fit in, where can I do my own things, will it just be the same, just another company? And then I started to talk with different people offering me to come in, and it was really in the end a leap of faith, and I think a middle step that I needed to go out and at one point that will happen, create my own company. That I accepted to come into the company that was then Film Farms, and that was because of the owner, and I think it's his kind of craziness in a way, that he just spent insane amounts of money on art house films with a big risk of never seeing his money back, and just offering me the chance to do basically whatever I wanted, as he said, and I think he at that point meant whatever he wanted, but that's, in a way, I took him by his word, and then I was able to kind of make the most of that situation. But I think it was really difficult, and it felt like a big risk, but well worth it.
So if we talk about the risks, what were your biggest risks? Maybe in career as well, like a decision that you had to take as a producer. Well, and you knew that it is a risk, but and maybe it will not turn out well. Did you have a point in your work life that you had to decide, okay, this is a risk, but I go for it?
I think there's small and big risks all the time in every project, and in many ways I think the only reason why, I can only speak for myself, but the reason I managed to stay in this job and keep staying is because I like risks and I can cope with them in a way, not getting too kind of stressed out, because I think just producing films and going into production is such a extreme risk. And of course with COVID it became much more obvious as well. But it's all the time. I'm doing a feature right now that we've had an option agreement for a book for a very, very long time. I'm this far from greenlighting, but I'm not there, and I need to exercise the option. And it's a huge risk, of course, because there's a lot of money, and I just have to think that we will manage in the end, and if it doesn't, okay.
Yeah, it's all about risk, what we do, I think, on a daily basis. And probably if we would have this panel 2 years ago, I would have completely different answers than now. Because really COVID changed the definition of risks in our business. Completely, for me at least. And like before, I thought that there are no impossible things to be made. And it's all what we do. We are kind of magicians. Like we are not only creating worlds, but we are also solving things that are unsolvable. And I think that that's a kind of this magnesium that's addicting us in a way, that you can't really stand without this adrenaline in your blood. And when I had like a too long break between making my movies, I started skydiving, just because again it gives me adrenaline. But yeah, like about this redefinition of risks, there are always like financial risks, of course, we need to take on our shoulders, because we are responsible for those money, we are responsible for crew, we are responsible for kind of psychiatric therapy to our talents. No one is giving us such a therapies. I don't remember any in my life, but I think that I'm constantly responsible for someone's state of mind. And people are very fragile, yeah, that's what we agree on, and actually that's something we really admire. More difficult those people are, even better, because they have, we call it charisma, no? That they do have this something really, why we agree to make movies with extreme talents very often. But I think that the risk that we define in film production is very complex. It's not only creative, of course, I mean, the creative is the biggest one, because you cannot be sure what will go out of there. You might be super well prepared, and then something is really fucked up during the process, and sorry, I mean, we didn't make it, even though it was very promising on paper. You can't really count your risks properly, because how to do it nowadays? I mean, everything has changed, and not only because of COVID, because we live in a very dynamic world. Like, whatever I would say yesterday probably will change tomorrow. we've been speaking that no platforms, now we have only platforms. The windowing was saying holdbacks, there are no holdbacks tomorrow. So I think myself sometimes like an old dragon that I'm not really like following all those changes in the market. And now I'm reading in newspapers that it's like a startup idea how to finance your projects. It's really very complex. And it's risky when it comes to business itself, because those models are changing right now rapidly. And revenues are, it's like, I don't know how to make estimates really for our movies right now, no matter if the movie is packaged as commercial or less commercial. Like, what do you call commercial nowadays and what's being called art house? With all those movies being spread worldwide, and that's actually kind of a good thing that the platforms did to us. That before, I mean, just to dig into like Korean cinema, you'd have to travel for festivals to have access to those movies. Now you don't have to travel anyway, you just put Netflix and you have it. And the consequence of this is that we learned, in a way, how to watch movies with subtitles, good training, but we've been also open-minded in a way, which also means for our movies that they can travel without such big limitations. But it's a huge dynamic in the market. I'm being lost very often in this. The movies that we budgeted like 2 or 3 years ago are not current any longer. But you are not getting financing in 6 months. So it's all being risky constantly. And I cannot even define one risk, but I can tell you about miracle, because like it's a lot about miracles as well that are happening. When you are like speechless and you don't know what to do, then the miracle happens. I think that the biggest one to me that I was already telling the girls that when the pandemic started, we've been just very close to pre-production during so-called closing, the word that I hate the most in the film business, of Silent Twins, English debut by Agnieszka Smoczyńska. And it was, again, not easy movie because we had to replace a lot of British locations in Poland to find them. But the difficulty was also coming from the financial system that we didn't know. Like in Poland, we don't co-produce with the States and with UK very often, so it was kind of the first one that was coming to Poland as an official co-pro. We were majority producer, and then there was a British company, 42, that was actually equal with us, and the movie was packaged as this kind of American financial, under this American financial system, and it was supposed to be our first bonded production. And we've been really happy that we have all of this and we are putting those elements together like puzzle after puzzle, and then the pandemic started and we had to stop it. When we were in such a small step before signing all those papers. So then we had to wait. We restarted the production again in autumn when everyone thought that pandemic is getting down. And then the British COVID came. When we had all the cast and crew, majority of the cast and crew coming from Great Britain, there were no flights to Poland. And then this miracle that happened to us was that like everyone, there was no single person who could believe that we might actually make it happen within our schedule. And this closing period, it's kind of a painful moment in productions when you have to sign all those papers. You need to be sure that you are able to make those movies within those conditions, financial and schedule conditions. And again, the production was bonded. So the bond company called us saying, you won't make it? And we said, yeah, please give us like 3 days and we will try to solve it. And we started calling to institutions that I was never thinking that even someone will pick up the phone for me, like Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they really helped. Either we found good people there, so it's all about humanity as well, that this kind of moments make people more united. They're really starting helping us. They helped us to bring those people by special flights to Poland. They opened hotels for us. They allowed us to move between cities when everything was closed. Everything was closed in this country. It was even hard to travel by public transportation. And we were so desperate that I think that my voice was really shaking when I was making those calls. because I knew that if we won't make it now, it's a bankruptcy for the company. It's pure bankruptcy. And I will probably never pay those debts. We were so much advanced with the works that stopping this movie then would mean we will never collect enough money to renew it and put that on the market again. So this risk was really, like, in a way, motivating me, like knowing that we might really not get rid from this problem, and this problem is bigger than anything else that I've ever seen in my life. Was motivating me so much that I was not really thinking, but when I was really making all those calls. And it was call after call from one ministry to another. Of course, Polish Film Institute really helped us a lot to solve this, but we made it. Actually, we made this production under COVID, when Great Britain was closed. We brought all those people to Poland, and we shot it successfully. But I hardly, like, again, I think I was staying then in the office for 3 nights, working like crazy because they asked us about like tremendous paperwork to be done, with a lot of protocols. No one knew even how to make those protocols. I was never working in Ministry of Health or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so all those forms were really not familiar to none of us. And then the borders, and trying to convince customs in Great Britain that they need to send those flights to Poland. But it means that miracles are happening, and that says everything about film production. We are getting into very risky business, but it's also a lot of pleasure, and the adrenaline is, I think that we all love it. I mean, once you jump there, it's really heavy to find another job. Sometimes I think that vegetable stores are cool for us, but it's not true. It's not true. We love this adrenaline, and adrenaline doesn't exist without risks.
Yes, well done. And it's done. The project is ready to go, and we will see it soon.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, questions? Yes.
I have two questions to Klaudia. One is...
You need to wait for the mic because it's captured.
So I have two questions to Klaudia about the Polish minority collection. Is it possible to co-produce with Poland, like, backwards when the film is already basically done? I know there's a problem with applying to the fund, but is it basically possible to get a partner when you have like a cash gap just after almost finalizing the film?
Precisely which moment you're talking about, because if the production is still ongoing in a way, so honestly they prefer to have movies that are not being shot yet. So they prefer, it's a kind of a preference, of course. But it's not being said anywhere that you can't actually ask for the grant during post-production, as long as you have enough eligible elements, which means that you need to have enough creative elements, which are listed, and you need to spend those money on Polish territory, at least 80% of the grant. So if you can fill in those 2 elements, yes, we submitted for post-production periods, I think 2 times.
And one question about Charlatan, because I noticed that Charlatan was nominated for like Polish film awards, like Orły. What makes it like Polish, basically? Is it your company, or is it Agnieszka? What is sufficient to become a Polish film when it's basically Czech?
I think that good point, but I think that it's defined in I always have problems with this, honestly. And it's the same is happening right now with Aida. It's a super good movie, but I'm not really sure if the movie should compete with Polish titles. So I had the same doubts with Charlatan. It's good for cast and crew to be listed and to get awards and to be nominated. But I mean, if we speak about the guidelines of Polish Film Academy, well, that's what they agreed on, and it's like what makes the movie eligible, it's kind of origin or nationality, and we are given with this kind of automatically by European Convention. So if it's official co-production between countries, the movie is qualified also as Polish.
It's the same with Czech clients for minority co-productions. When there is a minority co-production, you are considered to be a Czech film official under the European Treaty. If it's Czech, Icelandic, Polish co-production, it is in our eyes and for the Czech Lions and for the Czech Film Fund, the Czech film, Icelandic film as well, Polish film. So this is how it works. So you can get awards, and especially if there are Polish filmmakers involved as well. It's eligible everywhere.
Hi. When you're starting to produce a film, how soon do you start looking for distribution deals? Is it like early in the process? When you're trying to get money, do they want you to already have a distribution deal?
Whom that question is dedicated to?
Oh, anybody, sorry.
Well, I can speak for myself that, of course, we have madness. So for eligibility for applications, we are using our entity very often, but it's kind of a calculation. That some of our projects just simply require bigger distributors, and that gives opportunities to the project. Sometimes it's better to wait, especially with minorities. So it's not like, I think that again, it's very individual. I wouldn't say that we have exactly the same model for every single project we are doing. For some projects, it's really valuable to have distributor attached on a very early stage because it helps you to collect the financing further. For some projects, it's better to keep it for us because then, for example, we can sell pre-sale platforms later as a part of a library or with another project that we are doing, or it's just better to wait because we have this huge dynamic on the market at the moment. And just giving you an example for one of our current projects, we've been really thinking how to package it. It's all about packaging, and again, each project is different. We had the theatrical distributor attached because we needed, it was debut movie, so for debut movie you need to actually package around, so people start trusting you in a way. So they trust us because we have a track record, but always with the debut director, it's a huge advantage to have a distributor attached. Once you have it, then others are coming, because it's a kind of proof of trust. But we've been talking a lot in a company if we should actually pre-sale everything, or maybe attach broadcasters, or just only separate it and go with theatrical distribution. The final decision was made that we will go with only theatrical distributor and we will wait with the rest. But we've been checking the market. And the initial offer from the broadcasters was like 20,000 euros, let's say. I don't want to operate with the real numbers now. We wait 2 years and the value of the same sale was 10 times higher, just because the market has changed. So probably we would make like a huge mistake if we would attach all distributors or pre-sale everything at the very early stage. It was good though to have distributor attached, because for theatrical distribution, if there was this proof that this concept does have commercial potential and they are going to put that in a cinema, so it helped us to involve equity partners. But yeah, if like just only strategizing and thinking, we haven't made this mistake by pre-selling everything too early for little money. In general, probably it's good to have distributor attached. That's experience, at least from the Polish market. As I said, I mean, for us, we have this distribution branch, and it's small, but still, because we distributed already almost 10 titles, we are accepted for Polish Film Institute, for Eurimage and others as a distributor attached to the project. So we can click this button as done. But yeah, for me it's very individual.
I
I think it's very similar for us as well. The only thing is that Norwegian Film Institute, they demand that you have a theatrical distribution attached when you apply for production funding. So you can go through development without it, but you have to attach it when you apply for production. And also Nordic Film and TV Fund that we try to get for most of our projects, they don't just demand for Norway, they demand for as many of the Nordic countries as possible, both broadcaster and theatrical. So in many ways it kind of makes us do bad deals at an early stage because we need it. Yeah.
That's exactly the main purpose why we keep madness nowadays.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? If not, we go to the Oscars, because this is of course something amazing what happened with the film you produced, The Worst Person in the World by Joachim Trier. And it's everything that producer can dream of. You had premiere in Cannes, you became, together with 3 Wishes for Cinderella, the most successful film in Norwegian cinemas. And you made it for the Oscar nominations that you just a few days returned from. How did that all happen? Did you have an idea that it would be such a great success when the script was brought to you? And what were you thinking when you started producing this film?
Well, I think knowing Joachim and his previous films and reading the script, it was no question that the film would be creatively a success. And we, of course, had an ambition about going to Cannes. But we also knew that he wasn't there with his last film, Thelma, so it wasn't a sure thing. And I think the whole team, in many ways, when we received the news that it was selected for a competition, and we got the news very early, luckily, last year, so it was like a huge relief, and I think for Joachim as well, it was kind of the main thing, like it ticked that box that was really, really important for him. And I don't think Oscars had really been on our minds at all. It was kind of coming through the whole production. It was, we had shot 2 days when the Norway was locked down, so we had to postpone the production and get it up again, and new financing, and just getting through that and getting the film to that stage, going to Cannes. It was just, it was already a huge success for us. And we were hoping that the film might reach 100,000 admissions. Joachim's most seen film, Oslo, 31st of August, it's seen by, I think, 65,000 people in Norway in the cinemas. So we were like, okay, 100,000, it's a stretch, but maybe we can do it. And it was the same with the distributor and us and the Norwegian Film Institute. No one really thought it could do anything more. And when the time came to kind of pick a date, we were supposed to go up in August in Norway, kind of riding the Cannes wave. But then we got cold feet, and we were like wondering if the people were ready to go back to the cinemas, or if they were just enjoying summer, kind of feeling back to normality in some kind of way, and not ready to go into the cinemas. So we were like, okay, should we postpone? And we postponed until 20th of October. And it was a very wise decision, because in August and September the numbers were very low in the cinemas. And in October, then people were, I guess, more ready to go back. And we had that very important short window before the new wave hit around Christmas. So I think we were extremely...
Because you were hoping 100 and you achieved?
260,000, and it's still going in the cinemas in Norway, so we can, I don't know, if it's going on like this, we can slowly approach 300. And I think a huge reason to all of this is that not only was the film in Cannes, Joachim has been there with Ladderbombs before. It had very low theatrical numbers in Norway. But this time with Renate winning the Best Actress award, she was kind of a door opener into Joachim's films for people who maybe hasn't thought of his films as something that is for them before. They have perceived his films as maybe too intellectual and I don't know, someone also called them pretentious. And I think she was kind of a face and a person and someone who's so likable and approachable and also suddenly a movie star from Norway. Who really made people want to go to the cinemas. They were curious about her and wanting to support her in a way. So I think that's made a huge difference for the numbers, and also that I think everyone in the team was so exciting that they all did so much more press than they ever did before, and has just been extremely visible. We did a very, very traditional campaign, marketing-wise, but we did extreme amounts of press.
And something amazing happened because afterwards everybody said, okay, this is the completed trilogy for Joachim, and some agencies came with a map of places in Oslo that you can follow really your stars in the film, like where they've been. I don't know how many people saw The Worst Person in the World here? Nice, see? So everybody goes to the bookstore now in Norway.
They actually called us and said it's people coming in quite often to just see the bookstore and yeah, as you said, Visit Oslo has created this map so you can follow in Julie's footsteps around the city. So it's become this kind of Oslo commercial in a way, and I think the trilogy had something to do with it. It was Anders who read the script when Joachim presented the project to him, and he said, in many ways, this is an Oslo trilogy, and I think it really made sense to Joachim, and it was a way to, it became a way to speak about the film that also connected with the audience.
Can you tell us how many countries the film was sold before you got to know that there's an Oscar nomination, and what happened in between until now? Because when was the time when you found out about the Oscar nomination? At what stage were you?
Well, the film was basically sold everywhere in Cannes. Yeah, they had pre-sold it quite well before, and then they did the last sales there. With the deal with Neon as a very important sale, closing off Cannes. And I think the deal with Neon was very important, of course, for the whole kind of Oscar race and for us to see kind of the potential of being nominated, because they have done so well with their Oscar campaigns previously, with Parasite as a very recent example. And first we became the Norwegian nominee, and then we were kind of having a very good hype and buzz leading up to the shortlist. So we were kind of feeling a bit not sure, but very hopeful about the shortlist. And then it's been a real race for Joachim and Renate, especially, traveling a lot, and Neon has just done an amazing job. and really pushed them out and made the film so visible for all the Academy members. And the fact that the film, when we then saw the screening of the nominations, and really we were just waiting because we were like, okay, what order do they do the nominations? So we were like, okay, we're in the second round with the best international feature, and we were kind of just talking and kind of watching it like a bit, and then best original screenplay came on, and all of a sudden we hear the name of the film, and I think the shock of that room, and I think half of us started just to cry, and Eskil and Joachim was just, I think, really, really in shock about that nomination. And I think this is, one thing is that it's so deserved because of their work, but also with Neon's campaign that it was kind of considered for more than just international feature. It was really great.
And it is quite a big budget film for Norway, right? Can you tell us about the co-production a little bit? How did that happen when Joachim brought you the script? How the co-producers came on board?
Yeah. Well, for the last, I think, 3 films that Joachim has made, they have collaborated with Denmark and Sweden. It's Snow Globe in Denmark and Be Real in Sweden. And Joachim also has a Danish passport, so they consider him Danish. So he always gets the Danish money. So that was kind of a normal setup for us, but for this film it was a very long script. We had 55 shooting days. We had also pre-COVID a big budget for Norway. It was around 5 million. It ended up being 6.2. So we needed someone bigger, and luckily we had several sales companies that really wanted to work with Joachim, and we ended up working with MK2, both as sales and as co-producers, and they were really just extremely important in the setup of the co-production and in the beginning, because they already very early in the process made a commitment to the film financing-wise that they had to find later themselves, but we didn't have to wait for all the French answers. So they could kind of commit, so we could actually get into the financing, going to Eurimage, going to everyone parallel to them doing their financing, basically.
How long did it take? You had the script on the table and you knew that you were financed. What was the length in between?
Well, the financing, getting the financing in Norway, it went quite quickly. We financed the production on treatment, which is also possible just because it's Joachim. It all went very well and according to plan until Joachim broke his knee. So he had to operate his knee quite a few times and learn to walk again on his leg. So we had to postpone, which was kind of lucky in a way because Renate also was pregnant. So I think that would be would have been an issue. So we actually had to postpone almost a year before COVID hit, and then it was postponed a half year after that. But looking back at it now, I think that it all kind of landed in a perfect way.
Yes. Yes, question. I don't know where the mic is.
I have the
yes,
mic.
sorry,
because-
okay.
Here, the mic. Hi. I have a question about how does the whole process start? Because you talked about selecting scripts, but how does the script reaches you? Is it like I don't know, a talent agency that represents screenwriters, and they reach out to you, or the directors reach out to you. So like in this example, was it like Joachim, or like how did that start?
Well, with Joachim and Eskil, it was actually them together with their producer of the last 2 films by Joachim, who were looking for a new production company, a new home basically for their films. And they had been talking to a lot of people when they came to us and talked with me and the owner of the company. And this was even before they've started writing. So they decided to go with us as a production company, and then they started writing, and we already knew we were doing the project. And I think we would have done, I think still I would do a Joachim film without reading anything, because I kind of know what type of movies he does. But for other scripts, we get a lot just sent to us. And we try to read everything that we receive, but usually the films that we have ended up working on is it's a lot of filmmakers that have made shorts already with one of the producers in the company. That's when I look at us late now, I think almost all of them has worked with us previously in one or another way before. So when they come to us with the script, it's kind of a different approach but it's different. Sometimes it's director, sometimes it's the writer, sometimes also the Norwegian Film Institute tries to match up when they have people in the script development financing. They try to suggest producers that could be right.
How do scripts find you?
I think we have very similar way. So there are some directors that we work with, and there's like a kind of continuity. So obviously we are the first one that have access to the even ideas, and sometimes those are even ideas that we decide together to develop further. Like with Aga Smoczyńska, we started with Silent Twins, and then she came to us saying, I have something that I'm just writing with Robert, which is on very early stage. Maybe you just want to take a look. And another time she just called me that she just read a great book. So it's like, and then we acquire rights just because we read it too, and we started just more and more talking. Which doesn't mean that every book that we read together we acquire rights for, but it's like, if we both match in a way and we know each other well enough, then it's easier to commit on a super early stage, that there is only like a small peanut, not even an idea. But you know sensibility of this person in a way. I mean, you think that it's kind of your soul partner. So it's probably like between you in that case, and we do also receive a lot, and it's like more and more from other countries as well, so the scripts are not limited to Poland only. We are also getting some scripts from companies that we've been co-producing with, and it's obviously in a way better because there is a trust between partners, which is very important in this business as well, that if you jump into new water, just you need to be very careful. And sometimes if you have well-developed relationships with other producers, they are sending you. And there are also like filmmakers like Ola Terpińska, with whom Beata did actually all her shorts when they were studying. So those are also kind of relationship with those people that you've been growing up together in the market. But I don't think there is like a one direction or kind of definition how we receive our scripts. It's like from many ways, and we are also fishing. I mean, that's the purpose why we are all traveling. We are just looking for new talents. We are reading probably a lot also, like if you, for example, see like a great short and you think that this person is very promising, you are just knocking and asking for the script. So it works, I think, both ways.
I'm curious, when you receive the scripts and the scripts are not written by Agnieszka or Eskil or Joachim, what are the values which you are looking for? What are the reasons when you're deciding for the project to go for it? What is in the script? Is it the characters, or is it something, some genres, or is it like the story, that there are some, I don't know, moral values which are important for you?
And for us,
For
it's,
both of you.
again, I don't have definition for this. Sometimes the script itself that attracts you so much that you want to know more and more about the context. Sometimes you can't really believe what you are reading, but the director that stands behind this is so good that you can imagine that this person delivers something that you don't see in the script. It happens very often. Sometimes it's a kind of a package that if there is like a good producer or talent that made like a super good short, even though you are not really sure about the script that you see potential, then you develop further. And sometimes it's craziness, that you read something and it really keeps your heart or attention, or you start crying, and like, I don't know, I can't even name it. That I can't say that we are doing rational decisions often. I think that part of this is completely irrational.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's also a question. I think if it's a scriptwriter who aren't intending to direct him or herself, or if it's a director who also writes, it makes the decision making a bit different. But also it's about something that's managed to connect with you in some kind of way, and that's not rational, as you say, and then to kind of meet, if you connect with the written material, to meet and to see if it's possible. It could be a great script, but you still choose to not go ahead, because I think, as you said as well, with co-producing partners, with the creative talents that you choose to work with, it's, as I said, it's relationships that goes beyond the 9-to-5 type of work situation, and you really need to be sure that it's a kind of relationship that you want to be in for a while. It's years just for one project.
Yeah, and it's also it's also different factors when you decide on projects that you produce as a major partner, and it's different factor when you co-produce as a minority producer, because this majority means that you will be cheating on everyone that is around you because of this person and because of this project. This project becomes your lover for another 4 or 5 months, years. and you need to really believe in this excuse, because you will be giving this excuse to your family, to your kids, to your friends, because you won't be seeing them, because you will be picking up calls during night, and you really need to be committed to this. It needs to become your baby in a way, otherwise you won't survive this trip. At least not with our commitment. So if you don't want to cheat, I mean, with the person that you really want to get into this romance, that you don't do this. So those are like, for me, it's like, it's much more complex thing again. That it's not only the script that attracts, but also the person who will direct, vision, and it's, yeah, it needs to be much more than just only, you know, something that catches your attention.
Well, I think this is a lovely closing. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you, Dyveke. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I hope we can all agree that the co-productions make sense, right? Yes. Thank you very much again. And we have drinks now, right? Thank you.